This is Johnny with TigerBomb MMA, and today I'm going over UFC. Now, I want to get this right. It's UFC 306. Riyadh Season presents Noche UFC. O'Malley versus Dvalishvili, giving you my thoughts and predictions on the total of 10 bouts, which I thought was fascinating. 10 total bouts. And, you know, we've been hearing it all off and on about how this card isn't what we expected it, especially for the Sphere. And the more I'm doing research on it, I think it's actually, I might be a UFC shill here. I might be delusional because I ended up buying tickets to this event. But it actually looks like it's going to deliver based on the fights themselves. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have the highest name value. Not a whole ton of high-value Mexicans here. But I still think the undercard, the main card, what they're promising, I'm hoping to God it delivers, of course, because I'm going to fucking be there. I'll give you my thoughts and predictions on the entire card. I did extensive research on all these people just to try to make sure I can make some money while I'm in Vegas. But yeah, I love it so far. I'm really digging the aesthetic. I heard Dana White talking about how it took them like 12 hours just to render the graphics for the Sphere. And knowing like, man, I'm doing shit right now with YouTube and whatever. And if you were to see the back of the camera, it's fucking disgusting. So I understand how long it takes to render something, even with like the crappy shit that I put out either way. And it's like, wow, 12 fucking hours. I'm expecting something special here. So I'm going to go out there. It's going to hopefully be fun. I'm going to actually record my trip out there because I actually got to drive to Kansas City, take a flight to LA, pick up Jose, then drive to Vegas. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I'm going to give you my thoughts and predictions on this entire card. But yeah, what's the first fight of the night? Let me get this up. Also, different format because it is a special event. You're going to be seeing the fighters as I talk about them pop up on the screen. First, starting off with Rosas Jr. versus Aoriqileng. Now, the odds here, let me make sure I have the odds. Yeah, they're kind of nuts here. Rosas Jr., I think I've seen him as minus 900 at the highest. And we're currently Tapology. Damn, I left my glasses elsewhere. Yeah, minus 675 is what's listed on Tapology. Let me actually get the odds up real quick. Just to make sure what the current odds are, the official ones anyways. Yeah, it's floating around like minus 750. The highest I've seen is minus 900 for Rosas Jr. And it's no secret here, they want this kid to succeed, right? He's only, what, 19, almost 20 years old. He's got that adorable little catchphrase of chihuihuis, and it's been working on me, man. I've been saying it. I've been like trying to integrate it into certain Spanish slang and like, oh, I'm gonna go get me some ceviche and some agua chihuihuis, which if you don't know, that's like seafood, pretty fucking good. This kid, the more I see of him, the more I'm impressed by him, right? He's a big, strong boy. He's 5'9", he's 67-inch reach, and he's fighting a striker who we've seen in the past. He's been hit and miss, and I think at one point with Aoriqileng, he started off at 125. Flyweight, right? He fought Jeff Molina, like losing to Jeff Molina is fascinating, despite the fact, you know, he's a great fighter, very good fighter, legally obligated. He's a very good gambler. You didn't hear that from me. And also, you know, the other things, I hear he gives a very good expert, Jablonski or something like that, Blajowski, he sucks dick well. Aoriqileng, moving up to 135, we expected a lot from him, right? He's a very good striker. His nickname, the Mongolian Murderer, it's fun and dandy. But when you look at his record, and I'm trying my damnedest to give him a shot here, but you look at his record and the people that he's beaten and the people that he's lost to, it gives you a perception of where he's at. And it doesn't look good for him winning this fight. So automatically, I'm not going to bet him. There's no way I think he wins this. Like, his only chance is to knock out Raul Rosas Jr. And then with that chin, I mean, we have patented Mexican chins. This guy is like the overlord of the chins. We saw him use it defensively and offensively in his last fight against, God, what's his name? Ricky Turcios, man. Like, he's got the rear naked choke on him, and the chin is just defending his neck, and he didn't even bother to even try to defend the hands or nothing. He's just punching him. This kid's not going to get knocked out easily. But yeah, when I'm talking about his record here, he lost to Jeff Molina. He loses to Cody Durden. You know, not the biggest, like, oh my God, he's a bum. Those are good fighters, but he beats Cameron Nelson. He beats Jay Perrin. Jay Perrin nearly knocked him out in that fight, and Jay Perrin never won a UFC fight, which sucks. So I thought Jay Perrin was a cool dude. Gets knocked out by Amin Zahabi. Then he nearly loses to Johnny Munoz Jr., who, although I like Johnny, cool dude as well, probably going to be at the event. I might actually see him. He's not necessarily UFC caliber, and if I'm being honest, like, I saw his skill set kind of diminish more and more, so I don't know what's going on there. And then against Daniel Marcos, a fight that was supposed to be somewhat competitive, he got completely shut down and nearly finished. I would call it a finish because he got hit in the balls as he was jumping up in the air. I'm still kind of salty about that I didn't cash that ticket for Marcos. But now he's fighting Raul Rosas Jr. He's going to take him down. If Johnny Munoz is taking you down, this big, strong boy who has no limits at how quickly he's going to come after you, he's going to take him down and submit him relatively early. I think the way you got to play it is, if you're going to play Raul Rosas, you got to back him up with like a solid parlay piece. I think he is. I don't think he's going to lose. I don't think the UFC want him to lose. I think they're giving him a good opponent here for the Mexican crowd to go nuts as he beats the shit out of Aoriqileng. And I will predict that he's probably going to submit him. Let's be honest here. He can knock him out if he wants to. With Raul Rosas Jr., he may want to try to throw leather, but the easiest thing for him to do is get him to the ground, work off of his back, and choke him out. So that's what I will predict. Submission in round number 1. I just see they're putting the rocket back on Raul Rosas Jr., and I think they're going to really start giving him the appropriate level of competition here. Aoriqileng, he looks threatening, but he's not like a guy like Christian Rodriguez, who he looked unassuming, but he's a fucking killer. In this case, he's a killer that they're giving him an Aoriqileng visually, like, oh my God, he might lose this one, but he's going to run right through him. So I've got Raul Rosas Jr. to knock him out, choke him out in the first round. Next bout. Now, this fight here, when I got this announced as a short notice bout between Joshua Van and Edgar Chairez, I got really excited because this is a much better fight in my eyes than the original matchup for Chairez, who I believe was Borjas, right? Kevin Borjas, is that his name? El Gallo Negro, a.k.a. the Black Cock. Yeah, Kevin Borjas. So get this out of the way. For Edgar Chairez in this fight, he's going from a guy that is primarily a striker to another guy who's primarily a striker. So it's not a big change in opponent. It's just more so the change in mindset. Joshua Van, I think, is a much more talented striker. He moves forward, obviously. He puts on the pressure. Very intelligent with his defense. And he just had a stumbling block against Inner G. I always forget, Charles Johnson. And now he's coming in here, and he's a slight dog. He's plus 135 against Edgar Chairez, who's been somewhat unassuming in his UFC tenure. Like, he fought Daniel Lacerda twice, and he finished him twice, essentially. One no contest due to, chicanery, and the second time he easily beat him. But with Edgar Chairez, you look at his outside regional scene, he's a really good fighter. He actually has a lot of good qualities, and although he does kind of look like Poatan Pereira, he actually has a lot of the similar features. Like, he has a pretty good left hook, maybe not as devastating as Poatan's. He's got a good submission game, good chokes, really good off of his back. He's long and tall. He has a lot of pressure. He moves forward. He can eat your punches, and he's got a full camp. And against Joshua Van, as much as I really like Joshua Van in any fight, I think Joshua Van has a high ceiling, but the guys that typically beat Edgar Chairez are guys that have a well-rounded skill set, guys that can get it to the ground. And I'm not discounting that Joshua can do that. We've seen it. We've seen him go for like terribly timed heel hooks on jiu-jitsu black belts, like in Bunes's case, where he beat the shit out of him. But I worry that Joshua may not be able to really hurt Chairez in this spot, where Chairez, although he's not necessarily known for having the most heaviest punches, I think he can actually land on Joshua Van. Although Joshua has very good defense, I think he it just sucks, man. I like Joshua Van here, but I'm very much so leaning Chairez for the reason that he has a full camp. I think he's much better than what people expect him to be. Just at the price tag, minus 175 for Chairez, I'm not a big fan of it. I think it should be slightly closer, like maybe minus 145, because I do think Joshua, there's a chance he can win this fight by throwing them better shots, the better volume, maybe mixing in some takedowns with some top control. And although that's not something we normally see from Joshua Van, I wouldn't put it past him to do that, right? It's all about evolving your game, and I think Joshua's very much so trying to do that. When he was scheduled to fight Tagir the dude was like talking crap about like, yeah, he pulled out because he knew I was going to submit him with a heel hook, which I think is funny because it indicates that he's been working on his submissions and whatnot. So I'm really looking forward to this one because if they do go back and forth with their punches and who has the better striking here, it's going to be difficult to try to beat a Mexican in a Mexican-themed event. So Edgar Chairez already has a lot going for him, right? He has the skill set. He can take it to the ground. He can submit him. He is bigger. He has a 7-inch reach advantage, a 2-inch height advantage. I think he's got a solid chin, heavy hands. Maybe not the best volume, but the guy does have an imposing figure. And if he does, say, push the pace on Joshua Van, who I doubt he's going to be discouraged from just getting knocked out. And if I'm being 100, against Charles Johnson, he did get hurt. We've seen Joshua Van get hurt before, and I do think it was a bit of an early stoppage. It wasn't a horrible knockout that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I think he still has a solid chin. I think had, say, a different ref been in there, they would have given him a bit more chance to recover. He might have recovered. Maybe not. Charles Johnson's not really known as a guy that has heavy hands, more so like TKOs via volume. So I'm not too concerned about the knockout itself on his chin, more so his mentality. But him taking this fight on short notice, I doubt he's worried about it. So I'm looking forward to this one. I'm leaning Chairez. I'm going to go decision here. Not the most confident in this one. This one, I would rather just enjoy these two guys going at it. I think Joshua Van is high ceiling, but he is still very young, right? And one thing that stood out to me against with Chairez and his Contender Series bout against Clayton Carpenter, although they were the same age, they were both 26 at the time, Chairez said, like, this kid has never fought a grown man. And when you look at him, Chairez looks like the fully developed grown man. I don't know if it's just the beef in Mexico, you know, that Canelo beef that magically makes you pop for steroids, but it actually was the beef. Don't you worry about it. It was the beef. So maybe it's that. I don't know. So with Joshua Van being still young, I just think this was a very bad decision for him. I'm not counting him out, but I have to still lean with Chairez. Just sometimes these short notice bouts, a guy with not the stylistically best matchup to beat Chairez, a guy who will jump guillotine, go for chokes, sling that leather, take your punches and land a left hook. It's just a very dangerous fight for Van that if he pulls it out, the sky's the limit. Like I even said, the next guy that fights Joshua Van is going to be in trouble, but this is not what I meant in this situation on short notice. Had this been Matt Schnell, man, he would have just... Matt Schnell would have not remembered to retire. Let's just say that. So moving on, next bout. We got Yasmin Jauregui versus Caitlin Souza. The odds, before I fucking forget to mention them, Jauregui minus 455. Is that accurate? Let's see here. Don't you hate when you look up the odds on fighters and they don't give them to you? Let's see. Let's just go with... No, wait. Let's check fight odds real quick. Yeah, the highest I see on her is like a minus 550. I'm going to assume she's going to close at like minus 800. And if you have a short-term memory, maybe that's a great line. But unlike me, I remember when I get fucked by a woman ever so much that I remember when she got one-shotted multiple times by Denise Gomez in the same more or less spot, like a Brazilian girl who isn't really known to be the most well-rounded, who isn't necessarily that impressive, but Jauregui still found a way to get knocked the fuck out. And I mean, when I'm watching that fight, you know that delusion you have where it's like, oh my God, she's still with it. She's still with it. There was a moment where she's eating punches against Denise Gomez where she gets dropped, she gets knocked out, she's getting back up, she's still getting hurt. And I believe it was John. Why can't I remember his name? That ref that everyone hates because he stops fights a little too early. He did it with, I can see his face. I just forget names so fucking often. I'm cursing a lot because I don't expect YouTube to even let this shit get seen by the public. But, damn, I can't remember his name, but you know the one, the rat-faced one. Anyways, he is seeing this go down, and I'm looking at this happen, and I'm thinking to myself, is there a chance? And I'm like, nah, he's going to stop it. There's no way. I'm like, how come he hasn't stopped it? Like, just let me fucking end my suffering. Then it finally gets stopped. The issue with Jauregui, and like I'm picking her to win this one by decision, and I'll explain the details and why, but the issue with her is that in these spots where she's a huge favorite, where she should win because she is the better fighter everywhere, faster, good striker. She's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Just much, much faster with the striking, better combinations. She has power, great box. She's incredibly well-rounded. And looking at her physique now, she lost all the baby weight. Like, it took her years, but she's looking incredibly jacked. Super hot, too. The issue is that she tends to do things that can get her caught. With Estela Nunes, she threw a naked leg kick, and she got cracked. Same basic thing happened with D. Gomez. She threw a naked leg kick. I maybe not remembering that well, but she threw something. She got caught. She got countered. She got hurt. She has great recovery, but her initial chin of getting shocked, she's very much like Steve Garcia. Like you can flash him real quick. He can go out, but she'll come back, right? Like a zombie. Caitlin Souza is, to me, very mid. She's very mid everywhere, right? Her striking's good against weak competition, but she's got terrible takedown defense. She is athletic, but she doesn't throw too much in the way of combinations. And to me, she's very slow. She's not necessarily been fighting the best competition. We saw what happens when she fights good competition. She gets her knees destroyed, and that was against Karine Silva. But I look at her past, like not LFA, but Invicta fights, and she's just getting taken down by these bum women. Like even Marnik Man, and I will tell you this, I was nearly positive Marnik Man was going to go out there and put on a performance to beat her. And what really pissed me off is that Marnik Man, they had mentioned in the broadcast that she was seeing a sports psychologist at the performance center, and that's when I knew I done fucked up, because Marnik Man, I will say this about her. She has the skill set to be able to compete with certain women, and I thought she was going to be able to compete with Souza. But she chose not to fight. She chose just to be a punching bag. And in the third round, when she decided to try to fight, she actually had some success, which I thought she would have earlier. But then, I'm assuming her credit card declined, and whatever information that the therapist gave her just got sucked out of her brain because she went back to just sucking. And when I look at that kind of performance, she wasn't able to beat Marnik Man, like, and finish her. She beat the shit out of her, but she didn't finish her. She looked slow. She was a little too patient. She doesn't throw too much volume. I think Jauregui's going to just run right through her. The only problem with Jauregui is if you're going to parlay her, be 100% aware that it does take her a while to get things going. And when I look at the last fight between her and Hughes, I remember thinking people were fucking stupid. I'm like, you're betting against Jauregui. Don't waste your money on Hughes. Like, Hughes is a certain type of fighter. You need to be able to gas out for Hughes to really have any success against you. And you're going to have bad takedown defense. And Jauregui is a very complete fighter minus the chin. And Hughes does not have that kind of striking potential. And even in that fight with Hughes, she was still getting hit here and there. But I thought her defense looked a little bit better, just slightly. She still does fall into those same traps where she throws kicks naked. Like, bitch, don't do that anymore. And she always tends to keep her hands kind of high. So I even went back just to make sure, like, does Jauregui keep her hands low in the Denisi fight, and then she brings them back up against Sam Hughes? And no, she always keeps them kind of high and tight. It's just that she is there to be countered sometimes. So that's why I'm worried. So I am picking Jauregui to win because she is far the superior fighter. I think she can beat her anywhere. If she wants to grapple her, easy path to success, but Jauregui's not really like that. It would just be a very smart game plan of her to take her down and run a train on her. Souza might like it. She might just tap out just out of ecstasy. So I will go with Jauregui to win this one by a decision. She's not the biggest finisher. She does have knockout power, but Souza, unless you're going to like snap her leg, she's kind of tough to beat. So I've got Jauregui by decision here. And I am considering parlaying her, but nothing serious, right? I'm just $20 here to like long shot it. Next bout, we've got the most difficult fight to break down because of the X factor of one guy. We've got Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Manuel Loco Torres. Loco Torres, Mexico. It doesn't say what part of Mexico. It just says Mexico. Plus 100 for Torres. Come back on Bahamondes. La Jaula Bahamondes is, what is Bahamondes? Minus 120. So, logically, I'm thinking Bahamondes wins this one pretty comfortably by decision, but this is what the trap happens for me anyways when I'm doing tape on these guys. I overanalyze these often, so much so that I see potentials for either man to win and either man to fuck up. And for Bahamondes, when I initially pre-taped it, I was, yeah, Bahamondes wins this one because Torres is kind of a one-round fighter. He's only been to decision one time. High finishing rate. He does get cracked a lot. Kind of poor defense, but when he lets his hands go, he is a finisher through and through. And in the last fight where he fought Chris Duncan, where I think a lot of people expected him to knock him out, I had forgotten that Duncan hit him, caught him clean, which backed up Torres, which made me wonder. I'm like, oh my God, he's hurt, but the jury is still out on that. I'm not positive he's ever talked about it. But to me, it looked like he tried to fake getting hurt so he can back up and land that kick. He threw a left high kick that missed. But what I found fascinating about that fight is how strong Torres was. He basically just pushed the giant Scottish brute to the ground, and then they kind of got in a weird, awkward lockup. He got him to the ground with like a weird wrestling, like pro wrestling style lockup with the wrists. Took him down, took his back, and choked him out, which was impressive. But with Bahamondes, he is improving everywhere. And here's the funny thing about Bahamondes, what I see in him, his wrestling defense is getting better. His offensive wrestling, I think, is improving based on what I'm seeing. You know, he trains with Belal Muhammad, but that's neither here nor there. It's just Belal's not going to fight for him. The thing with Bahamondes is that he's primarily a kicker, and when you're in range with him, in boxing range, I feel you can land on him pretty significantly. The much shorter man in Aoriqileng was able to just tee off on him in close because he could not keep him at range with the kicks. He just kind of disregarded it, and then he was able to get him taken down and controlled there. The most significant thing that I noticed is that he did get hurt by Aoriqileng in close, so that's why I'm like, man, if Torres can just loco his way in and land some of his nasty hooks and elbows, like, because Torres right now, from what I gather, he's been primarily training at a Muay Thai gym to try to clean up his Muay Thai. His striking's looking a lot cleaner. The issue is that when you're looking at him hit pads, he's not going to fight like that. That's the shit that pisses me off about him. You can see him clearly hitting pads well, but he doesn't fight like that. He's very vulnerable to get beat. So it's a tale of two different fights. I think if you want to go with Bahamondes, you got to go with Bahamondes and the over. I don't think he'll finish Torres. Torres is a tough dude. I think Torres will put up a fight. But if you're going to go the Torres route, you can either obviously take him by money line. He's still plus money. If he is still plus money, let me check the fight odds again. Fight odds have it. Ooh, shit, he is minus 115. So now he's the favorite. So I think the smart money would be on Bahamondes to win this one by maybe a decision here, or Torres by inside the distance, because he is a high finishing rate kind of guy. So this one is the toughest one for me to go back and forth on, and it is kind of like a dog or pass, so whichever one is the dog. But stylistically, I do think Bahamondes is the better fighter, even though he can get clipped. I think if he's smart and offensively wrestles here, he should win it by a decision. The problem with Torres is that the tape you try to find on him, there's not a whole ton that you can really find on Torres to see how he reacts to stuff. He has been submitted twice. I don't think that's going to be a problem here, him getting subbed by Bahamondes. I think Bahamondes just kind of keeping a specific pace on the outside. But the problem with Torres is that because there's so much unknown about him, and the fact that he just goes for techniques, he has zero fear of being anywhere. there's a high probability that despite the fact, say, Bahamondes is training armbar defense or submission defense or conditioning his chin, Torres just seems to have this mythical Mexican power, like this voodoo, like La Llorona's at his house fucking cooking up something in the bathtub, which that's what the story my parents told me, that like Llorona drowned her kids in the bathtub. I think that was like the updated version because we didn't have any like lakes or shit around us. I'm like, oh, it was in the bathtub. So like I was afraid of the bath when I was a kid. I'm like, no, the bitch is not going to drown my ass. But with Torres, he's got this weird mythicalness about him that I can see him, and I'm going to say something fucking stupid, but I can see him becoming champion very much so like Drickus. He just memes his way to being a champion by knocking the fuck out of everybody. And you're like, how? But ultimately, smart game planning, I think, is on the side of Bahamondes. I think he's going to be cleaner, sharper, just avoid getting hit. It's a tough one for me. It's a coin flip for me. I will go Bahamondes. I'm not a fan of me saying that. I want to pick Torres, but everything in me says, hey, logically, I think Bahamondes is on a higher trajectory than Torres. Torres is not per se round one or bust because he has gone a decision. It's just more so we need more tape on him to make 100% sure that he's not round one or bust. So I will go Bahamondes by a decision here. Next bout, we've got Irene Aldana versus my beloved Norma Dumont. The cat lady versus the big booty power, which is funny because I'm wearing the shirt right now. Let me move my mic so you can see. Dump truck Dumont, big booty power. Highly ironic because she hasn't really gotten a knockout in the UFC. So this fight, again, pre-tape, I thought Norma Dumont, the beloved immortal, beautiful eyebrows, beautiful eyes, Norma Dumont. I would make her a very happy woman in my, what would be the most like losery thing to say that I live in my 1-bedroom mobile home outside of Montgomery, Alabama. Let's just say I live there. Make her a very fine woman. But she is plus 110. I actually thought that was the opposite. Let me make sure she's not. Yep, she's about plus 110. So she's plus money, which pre-tape I thought Norma Dumont was going to maybe win this one using a specific skill set versus Aldana, the Catwoman, who is minus 130. So initially, Norma Dumont, this is at 135. Norma Dumont really hasn't lost a whole ton. She's only lost to a select few people, which there's background information to it. She lost to Megan Anderson at 145, and then she also lost to Macy Chasson, also at featherweight. So she's not lost at bantamweight ever. But to me, I think 145 is her weight class. But the wins that she has have not necessarily been the most impressive. The most impressive on her record would be Germaine de Randamie, who I think a lapse of judgment from Germaine de Randamie cost her that fight because she was having success in the clinch, but she decided to kind of keep distance and strike when in that third round, I think had she initiated the clinch, she would have won that fight. I don't think she would have gotten taken down. But the evolution of Dumont, we know she's a striker. She's got that big booty power, that dump truck ability. But her grappling has gotten a lot better. Her takedowns, her top control, she's displayed it against, obviously, Germaine de Randamie. She displayed it against Chelsea Chandler. I thought Chelsea was going to have some bit of success on the ground. Absolutely not. We found out she's an absolute bum. Cara Rosa, she defeated her mostly clinching. And what I found fascinating about the Chasson fight, because they both have that common opponent, Irene Aldana finished Chasson. She nearly finished her in the first round, and then she ended up finishing her in the third. But fascinating about that is that we know Aldana has questionable takedown defense and questionable get-ups. She can stuff takedown, she can get up, but we've only seen it not work with like the highest level of competition like Amanda Nunes and also Holly Holm. And when I look at her most recent losses, her 3 most recent losses for Aldana are the former champ in Nunes, the former champ in Holland, in Holm, and the current, I can't believe I'm fucking saying this, champ in Raquel Pennington. So she's fought the better competition for damn sure. My biggest worry in this fight would have been Dumont getting on top of her, laying on her. I don't think that's going to be the problem. The other issue is we've seen Aldana eat a ton of leg kicks against Rosa, and that was not a good look. I was disowning her. I was like, wow, she fucking sucks. I can't believe she's doing this. She's getting her legs chewed up. And that was the only technique that was really landing in that fight. And then they ended up putting out a spectacular fight where Aldana just kind of bit on her mouthpiece and went. She was throwing straight punches, hurting the body. We know Aldana's got ridiculously good boxing for women's MMA, right? Some of the best. I call it Mexican lady boxing, the same type of Mexican lady boxing that Diego Lopes has, which has been very impressive. But on top of that, she does have that Brazilian jiu-jitsu, curly Kentucky waterfall mullet, Diego Lopes jiu-jitsu that she's been developing. She will shoot up for arm bars off of her back. But the primary weapon that I see here for Aldana and what's going to win her this fight, and why I do think she's actually going to knock out Norma Dumont, who her chin has been a little suspect, it's the straight punches, the boxing, the left hook, the counters of Aldana. This is a very, very easy fight in my eyes for Aldana to win, but also a very easy fight for her to lose because she is a bit of a stuntmeister here. That's my biggest worry about her. So if I were to put a bet on Aldana, it would be an ass clincher to the highest degree because I can see her start unloading shots, straight shots on Dumont, attacking the body, just ripping to her, maybe catching her with a counter because Dumont, her boxing is not great. Her striking's good. She has good kicks, but she loops her punches. When Macy Chiasson is looking like the striker in that bout against Dumont, that's when I knew she was going to be in trouble against Aldana, who is just more ferocious when she is on. But again, time and time again, we have seen her pull a stunt, not really fight to her biggest potential, get taken down, controlled against Holly Holm, against Nunes. And I'm giving her slack there because former champs, good fighters. Just stay off of your fucking back, unload those punches, suck up the spirit of Julio Cesar Chairez and just start unloading on Dumont. I think you can get her out of there. So I will be picking Aldana by second round knockout. Now, that's a risky bet if I were to bet that in general, just probably money line for Aldana, depending on what it's going to be like when I get to Vegas. Because although I want to pre-bet her, I kind of blew all my fucking money going to this event. Not all of it, but, all of my gambling allowance. So I'm going to, I say that like my girlfriend's like, you can't bet money, blah, blah, blah. My gambling allowance, that's fucking stupid. Anyways, I want to get there. I want to actually have a ticket in my hand to like rub it in people's faces next to me. Oh, I can't fucking wait, dude. I can't wait to be around like my people, not Mexican people, but like fight fans. It's going to be awesome. But I do have Aldana to win this one by a TKO in the second round. I think if she is on, she's going to run right through Norma Dumont. But if she is showing any bit of that like, oh, I'm stupid, she's done it a lot. She gets taken down. She just tries to play off of her back. That would be the game plan for Dumont. Because again, although she has that big booty power punching wise, she's got that secret technique of that big booty top control. Man, Jermaine could not get up. I don't know if it was on purpose. Like, I like being here. I'm comfortable here. This is way more worth getting double my pay. I'll take the loss and just enjoy these moments with Norma Dumont. Maybe. I don't blame her. But yeah, if she is on top, I think Aldana is going to try to kick off of her. Embody the cat that you love so much, and then we can win this money. But moving on here, we've got main card. Is this the opener? Yeah, main card opener. We've got Rolando Rodriguez, a.k.a. Lazy Boy, versus Ode Osbourne. And this fight here, another fight where I was looking at it, and I'm like, where is the value? And I've been talking to people. Herb Dean, if you're watching, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Ode Osbourne is the value. I've already talked you out of it because he's a fucking gasser. But he's plus 140 here. Come back on Lazy Boy. He is minus 165. Is that still accurate? Actually, I think some money did come in on Ode, so I see minus 130 for Lazy Boy. So what's funny about Lazy Boy, I got to get out of the way automatically. I don't like his fucking face. I don't like his teeth. Too much gum when he smiles. It scares me. And I don't know if you've heard, but Daniel Zellhuber was talking about how Ronaldo was, I guess, living in the house with them, and no one was home, and he just starts jerking off in the can I say jerking off? All right, whacking off. Just to be more PC in the living room couch where they live, and they're like, "Hey, dude, were you whacking off in the couch?" Like, yeah, there's cameras here, so we know he's a masturbator. He can't control himself, poor boy. But I'm a fan of Lazy Boy. I like Lazy Boy. Like, here, I got a mug. I'm a big fan of Lazy Boy. See. I think he's a fun fighter. My issues with him, and here's the thing, I can shit on Ode Osbourne for a majority of this, but I'm going to more so shit on Rodriguez, on Lazy Boy. He fights at 135 and 125. This is at 125. Often I see him fight at 125 and he looks terrible. He looks better to me at 135. And that's why I was so worried about betting him against Bondar, where I eventually did bet him live. I still got good odds, below minus 125, I believe. Could have even been plus money, I don't remember. But he, to me, takes too long making reads. And he is, I don't want to say, oh, he's lazy. He's not. He's making these reads, but he doesn't throw enough volume. And he's not necessarily the fastest. He's not the strongest. But what he does have is a ton of grit, a lot of forward pressure. And when he starts fighting, and this is what I mean when he starts fighting, when he gets the ball rolling, when he gets out of fifth gear or first gear, whatever euphemism you want to use, when he something about him like in the zone about the, as he's working his crank, when he starts going at it, when he actually starts engaging, you see the talent that he has. Like, he can scramble, he can get on top, he's got good hips, he's got good chokes, he's got hard punches, he will go for flying knees and such. Like, the guy is truly just a fighter. Like, he's not skilled anywhere in particular. There's nothing about him that screams like, oh my god, this is a world champion. But the guy goes out there and he fights, and that's very impressive here. The issue against Ode is that Ode is a specialist. He's a fast twitch guy. He's very strong. He's very fast. He is 1 inch taller, and he's going to have about an 8-inch reach advantage. Is that right? Yeah, that's a big reach advantage. So I do fully expect Ode to be landing on Rodriguez. We saw Bondar land on him pretty cleanly, pretty quickly, took him down. The problem there is that, will Ode's gas tank fail him? Because he is so strong, he's so muscular, he's cutting down to 125. I think that, along with his like body type, that fast twitch muscle fibers, it's going to slow him down. And although I think Ode has a good chance to win here, that pressure of Rodriguez, those body shots he's going to be landing on, eventually I think Ode is going to crumble, and I think Rodriguez is going to take his back and submit him or choke him out in some fashion, or TKO him. Rodriguez doesn't have the hardest punches, but that accumulation of that pressure and then just going after you, that tenacity that he has, it's going to be tough for Ode to really manage. So for Ode, he's going to have to finish this kid quick. But the kid, I don't think he's ever really been finished. Let me go back and double check. He's only lost twice. He's lost by decision twice. And I remember when I was first doing research on him, I went back and watched his fight with Jerome Rivera, who, funny enough, got knocked out by Ode Osbourne. And I just remember being so unimpressed by this kid. Like, this guy is just, he ain't it. But when I see what he's doing at Extreme Couture now, like him finally getting to the U.S. and training constantly, I see some improvement with him. I see the cardio. He's going to have the cardio advantage, of course. I want to see those improvements against Ode Osbourne here. I think against Ode, it's a good clean fight that he can have, where he is not the better fighter. I think Ode is, but he's got those additional X factors, the toughness, the forward pressure, the cardio, that can provide an easy way out for Ode Osbourne once he gets to that fatigue state. And he's more or less fatigued in every single fight, except, well, he did, but he got a break there against Charles Johnson, where he got hit in the balls. And he took like a 5-minute break. He recovered, and then he was able to do enough to, I guess, win that fight, allegedly. But I got Rodriguez here to win. I'm going to say in the second round. I think Ode's going to look good early. I really do believe that. I think people putting money on Ode, I see why you're doing it. But ultimately, he still has to win the fight. And that's the mentality I think about. Like, hey, he's going to look good, but will he eventually win it? Will he fuck up? The guy's been choked out twice in a row. Now he's fighting a guy who, although is not as good as these guys, he has that ability to beat the shit out of you until you become worse than he is. And that way he can submit you. So that's my mentality on this fight. So I do have Lazy Boy here to win this fight by second or third round sub. Next bout, we've got at lightweight. Oh my God, a fantastic fight. We got Daniel Zellhuber, the Golden Boy, minus 225 comeback on El Gringo Esteban. My family did not originate from Germany. Robovic, Argentina and such. And he is a minus, or is he minus? Yeah, plus 185. Jesus. So this fight, the only way Zellhuber loses this fight is that if Zellhuber continues to fight as if he does not belong in the UFC, if he continues to fight as if he is not a black belt in jiu-jitsu, if he continues to fight, for lack of a better word, like a fucking idiot. And I say that with like the most utter respect for Daniel Zellhuber. People in my circles know I love me some Daniel Zellhuber. He's made me money in the past. I have not lost with Zellhuber as of late. He only cost me against that one guy who will screw you over in the name of Trey Ogden, right? And I think if they run it back, I'm not going to say that I think Zellhuber finishes Trey Ogden or beats him. I think Trey is still, he's got that mindfuck ability that he's going to shoot on me. Oh my God, he's going to shoot on me. No, oh my God. He just disrupts your rhythm so bad. But I do think that Zellhuber should still beat him. He probably won't finish him, probably ends up decisioning him. The issues that I have the most with Zellhuber is that he doesn't take the easy route sometimes. He chooses to strike. He chooses to keep it on the feet. He doesn't mix in his takedowns. The guy is a phenomenal fighter. And in this fight here, he can make it incredibly easy on himself if he goes for takedowns and tries to work submissions against Robovic. He's going to have a significant reach advantage again. It's more or less the same fight that he had with Prado. Prado, oddly enough, won the first round against Zellhuber. Then Zellhuber started landing the jab, and slowly and surely he started whipping his ass. The thing with Zellhuber is that training at Extreme, you kind of see the influence that Sean Strickland has on him. He kind of fights like him. He's very patient. They're both black belts in jiu-jitsu, but they kind of like to bang and keep it on the feet and just, you know, they like a slow pace sometimes where they're the ones dictating where the fight goes, but more often than not, it's Zellhuber trying to keep it on the feet. Robovic, on the other hand, he's not as skilled as Zellhuber, right? His jiu-jitsu's not great. His takedowns aren't great. His takedown defense isn't great. But the guy scraps, man. He goes after you. He hits hard. Great combinations. Great cardio. He crashes into you, attacks the body. Massive power in the punches. He's super fun to watch, right? This could be one of the best fights on the card, but honest to God, I don't want it to be. I want it to be a Zellhuber immediate victory where Zellhuber keeps his distance, he establishes the jab, and then he clinches him up, takes the back, chokes him out. Very simple. Esteban Robovic's takedown defense isn't great. He can get controlled, and primarily his method to victory or near victory has been get taken down, wait till your opponent gasses out, then stuff the takedowns, then beat his ass. Zellhuber's not going to gas out. It's just Zellhuber needs to be a mixed martial artist. Use your damn black belt in jiu-jitsu, and you can just make it a very simple night. If you want to make it a harder night where Esteban is going to try to like leap in on you, maybe land some punches, try to crack you, then far be it for me to tell you what to do, but I will ask you for my money back, Zellhuber. I will find you in the concessions like I did last time. Very nice guy. Very nice young gentleman. But I think Robovic, fun fighter, very tough fight for him here because he's fighting a guy who he more or less has to win here. He's the more skilled of the two. He just truly, if Robovic wants to win this fight, he has to kind of G-check Zellhuber, like make him fight his fight, which would be the stand-up. Because in that case, Robovic may not necessarily still win that fight, but he has a better chance there. But if Zellhuber's smart enough, starts taking him down, it'd be a lot easier for him to try to find a choke. We saw what he can do to a guy in Christos Giagos when he essentially, got the Darce choke or the Anaconda and just took him down pretty easily, choked him out. So my advice to Zellhuber would be very, very simple. And let me write it down here. This is like typical Tiger tip, which is usually number one. So my true advice to Zellhuber is, look at all those fucking ring lights. Very simply put. So I got Zellhuber to win this one. Realistically, I'm going by decision, but he has a very high likelihood of getting the submission, but I cannot trust him until I see it. I keep saying that about Zellhuber. Like, I cannot necessarily trust him in a specific spot to say, oh, he's going to choke this guy out because it's the most likely thing to happen until I start seeing it happen. I don't think he's going to knock out Robovic. Robovic is a good chin. He's been hurt by, Loic Rabazanov. Other than that, solid chin. So I've got Zellhuber by a decision here. But again, it's primarily based on him fighting to his utmost potential. Next bout, we have got the featured bout here, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. T-City versus, Diego. He needs a nickname, for real. That sweet mullet that he has is amazing. Minus 180 for Lopes. Come back on T-City here. Plus 150. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Like, I've already talked about how I expected Lopes to beat T-City back in, was it UFC 300? I don't remember when the fuck they last fought. When did he fight last? I remember taking a legitimate hike. I was hiking and listening to Brian Ortega talk about, like, oh, no, it's 303. Yeah, it was going to be 303, and then he, what happened. But I was listening to Ortega talk and say, like, yeah, like, I took this fight. He was essentially saying that he took the fight on short notice because he needed the money because he wanted to help some people from his church, I was like, that's cool. Just catch this L and get your money, be on your way. But he was going to move up to 155. And then they basically screwed over Lopes, right? And I'll talk about that when I'm talking about Lopes, how they screwed him over. But, he says he can't make the weight. It was going to move up to 155. Lopes agrees. Then he pulls out, and then it is what it is. But ultimately, for Brian Ortega, the game plan should be get your ass beat for 2 rounds, tire out Lopes, and then try to work your jiu-jitsu and try to finish him. And that's not the best game plan. I love Brian Ortega, right? He's from Torrance, right? Like, he right across the street from me, technically, a couple freeways away. BFFs, me and him. We go way back. He doesn't know it, but we do. I love Ortega, right? Everything about the dude, like, I've seen this dude fight in LA, choke a motherfucker out, like, last minute. Like, the dude, to me, I've got a lot of memories with the guy, but he's taken so much damage over the years. And even when he's not actively fighting, he's taken damage. I mean, literally, I joke about that last fight with Rodriguez. He's jumping up and down, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was Tracy Cortez in the crowd using voodoo, breaking his ankle. But the dude rolled his fucking ankle jumping in the air. And that's just unfortunate and such, but that is kind of like the true history of Brian Ortega as of late. He's just taken so much damage over the last 5 fights that I don't think he's going to be able to get out of this against Lopes, who is physically bigger than him, can match him with the jiu-jitsu, maybe not with the grittiness or the toughness that Brian has, because broken beak Brian Ortega is a different beast, right? He is a guy you can never count out. If Lopes makes a mistake, he can catch Lopes, or Brian can catch him in a guillotine. Lopes is not exempt from getting choked out, even though he's the more dynamic submission artist. But Brian is the more efficient grappler, the better black belt, in my opinion, when it comes to, like, controlling the situation, making the adjustments to get the submission, opposed to Diego just ripping it, which is, it's fun. They're both fun to watch. They're just 2 different types. But with Diego being so physically strong, much bigger than him, having a 3-inch reach advantage, he's going to be attacking the calf kicks. He's going to be picking apart Brian Ortega. And I think either he will beat him by decision, which is what I'm kind of leaning, because Bryan's not a guy to get stopped like that. If he does get stopped, it'll be more so like a doctor stoppage. Just his eyes, man, he's had them shut many a time. I will say this, when it comes to Bryan maybe going for takedowns against Diego Lopes, yeah, I like that idea, but when I saw his takedowns against Yair in that second fight, they weren't impressive. They weren't physical. There weren't anything that I don't think Diego can handle. With Diego just hitting so damn hard, just kind of crashing into his opponents, it would take a massive stunt for Diego to lose this fight, given the fact that he's the healthier guy. He's got the better overall Muay Thai, because I say that because he's going to have the harder kicks, the harder punches between the two. So yeah, to me, it is going to be Diego Lopes. Out of respect, I will go by decision. But I would not, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for Diego to finish him. So to me, I probably will be betting Diego again. I'll probably be parlaying him up with Chiwiwis. But it's going to be a great fight between the two. But when I say with Diego and how that last turn of events kind of affected him, you could see that if you want to make the case against Lopes, you can say, oh, wow, he fought a guy on 1 day's notice in Dan Ige, and he gassed out and he couldn't get up from bottom. Yeah, dude, because he had to cut weight like multiple times. He had to make 3 different weights. He was on weight the night before. They changed his weight the next night, and then he had to fight at like 165, I believe, the day of, against a different opponent that he wasn't prepared for. And that, I'm going to give him a slide on that. Like he got the really rough end of the stick, and he still ended up winning that fight. He looked good for those 2 rounds, and he fought a very tough guy in Dan Ige. That he's the kind of guy that even though it's a day's notice, it's still the same Dan Ige. He can still knock you the fuck out, and he was able to take those punches well. But what weight was it now that I'm thinking about it? 165. So yeah, I got Diego Lopes to win this one by a decision. I think it's going to be a fun fight while it lasts. And if Ortega can pull it out, man, I'm not going to be disappointed that I lose money betting against Ortega, but logic-wise, I just can't see it happening, man. I think he is more accepting that he is no longer a top featherweight and he's ready to move up to 155 where his body's going to be healthier. So if he doesn't make weight, man, it would suck, man, because that's the thing about Bryan. I worry about his health, so much so that I do kind of suspect he might not make weight here, or there's going to be another issue on the scale, but hopefully I'm wrong there. But yeah, next bout, we've got the co-main event, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 3. Boys, I hope you enjoy the picture I found of Alexa Grasso, you fucking freaks. I joke around about that whole like Alexa Grasso's feet thing, but I don't understand it. I don't get it. Like, I'm not a feet guy. I will pretend to be one just for the sake of ha-has, but I don't understand it. What's so special about her feet? Is it just like she finds a way to like get them in there? You know what I mean? She always finds a way. I keep joking on like when I'm going to be in the sphere, they should do like a POV shot of like Shevchenko's vision. So that way when she's eating these head kicks, like you just see the feet coming at you. It'd be fun. But yeah, in this fight here, we've got Alexa Grasso, the champ. She is -115, -105 for Shevchenko, the challenger. Now, great fight. I've seen it obviously multiple times. It's the third fight between the two, and we really haven't learned much. What we've learned is that Alexa's got the better boxing. She's got the harder punches. Shevchenko's got the strength advantage. She's got more or less the grappling advantage, where the wrestling, I would say, dictating where she can take it. Grasso's get-up game isn't the best, at least what I expected it to be from fight number 1 to fight number 2. It just had not gotten better. So why am I picking Grasso to win again by submission? Now, I will tell you why. And this is a leap of faith, because with Shevchenko, it's a bit of 2 different factors why I'm picking against Shevchenko, because when I'm looking at it, on 2 occasions, she was winning the first fight, and then she gave up her back, got choked out. The second fight, she was winning the fight again, but when I'm looking at those, when I'm looking at the scorecards, right? Round number 1, clear as day, Shevchenko. Round number 2, to me, clearly, it would be Grasso. She got a knockdown. landed some good punches and such. Round number 3, I think, unanimously went to Shevchenko. Now, what's funny about round number 4, only one judge gave it to Grasso. Grasso actually had the better moments in that 4th round, which, who was it? Junichiro Kamijo gave the fight to to Grasso in that round. That would have made it rounds 2, 4, and 5 for Grasso. I think in a normal society that would have been correct, and Grasso would have kept her title, which she still did. It was a draw. But with judging, and screw it, I am a bit of an expert in this situation because I've judged multiple bouts, I think over 100 at this point. It's a little tricky based on duration, right? You can have a person winning the grappling exchanges for literally half of a fight and a person winning the striking exchanges for half of the fight. Given who is judging, one might value the grappling more so than the striking, depending on the impact. So with those types of rounds, I'm not going to bitch and moan, but I would have agreed with Kamijo that it would have been a Grasso 48-47. But ultimately, it was a draw because Mike Bell decided that round number 5 was a 10-8. I'm just saying the cartels probably had somebody from his family upside down with a knife to their balls, and they're like, hey, you better make sure, and he made sure. So ultimately, Grasso ended up winning that. But, you know, it's still very competitive, despite the fact that Shevchenko is up there in age. She's, 36 now. She's still competing with Grasso because, like, it's almost like Grasso is the better fighter, but Shevchenko is not allowing her to do so. You can kind of see it. Like, Grasso's just inching her way to being the best in that division, but Shevchenko's just not letting go of that title. Physically and literally, like the title of being the best fighter and the title of the flyweight division. She's a stubborn lady. She's not ready to call it quits. But with Shevchenko, I'm seeing the durability issues. I'm seeing the problem with the grappling with the younger, more hungry competitors. And I think, truly, and I say this, I think Grasso took away the prime years of Shevchenko because them being locked up with these 3 fights, Shevchenko could have definitely beaten some other competition had she still been the champ, and she might have retired or she might have lost to, say, like a Tatiana Suarez, and then that would have been it for Shevchenko, thinking like, hey, I think I'm ready to start winding down. But because Shevchenko is still very much so neck and neck with Grasso, it's given her this confidence that she can win this fight, and with that confidence, I think she can still definitely contend here. But with Grasso, what I notice about her is obviously she's going to have the power advantage, the boxing advantage when she lets the hands go. But what's fascinating is that when Grasso offensively initiates the grappling, she's had the absolute most dominant success in those rounds, in those entire 9 rounds that they've had. When you look at the back take in the first round, that was a wrap when she had that back take. That was it. She got the neck and she finished her. Shevchenko at one point had the back, and she could not finish Grasso. It wasn't as dominant, obviously. In the second fight, whenever Grasso got the back, whether through a sloppy exchange or a weird, wrestling exchange, Grasso was the one threatening the most. Although I think Shevchenko at one point did have a guillotine, it just wasn't as threatening. So it was round number 5, if I remember correctly, when Grasso took the back of Shevchenko, lifted her up, took her down, put the hooks in. That's when I realized if Grasso is coming out here to put a stamp on this fight, where she's not the one like just trying to box here, she's not the one trying to defensively grapple, because Shevchenko's going to want to get it to the ground here. On the feet, she can still contend. She still has good punches, but the pop will be coming from Grasso. We saw her get dropped. That shit will fuck up your whole mentality of like, oh my God, I cannot get dropped by this girl. I can contend on the ground on top, but if she starts dropping these hammers on me, I don't want to go out that way. So Shevchenko's going to want to come out here and implement a top control type of game plan. But if Grasso beats her to it, where she starts working on top, trying to take her down, taking the back, I think she can have more dominant rounds that will lead up to a finish. It's just, I cannot confidently say that's what's going to happen, but that's how I know she can win this fight a lot easier. God, I really wish I could just call them up like in TJ, like, hey, fucking Team Lobo, hey, Alexa, offensively grapple. Oh, you will? Great. I will take out a small loan and put it on you. I do believe that if she offensively grapples, goes for takedowns of her own, I just don't see a problem at all. I think she can get Shevchenko down, who is slowing down. Her prime is over. Third round submission is what I'm going with. Rear naked choke. It's going to be a fun fight. If it is essentially a replay of the first three, it's going to be another close fight where Shevchenko is going to have some top control, but Grasso might be able to get back up and start pushing and landing better shots. But to me, ultimately, Grasso has to offensively grapple. Take the back. Doesn't really matter. Just get on top of her. Make her defend your takedowns. Make her defend, period. And then you can get those scrambles. Like, you've got the ability to take the back and control her and get the hooks in or the body lock. Make her uncomfortable. Win rounds that way. You don't have to beat her immediately. You don't have to knock her out with back control or choke her out. Just that is the clearest path where it's been between the both. Who has had the more dominance in these rounds? It's Grasso when she has the back, and it's Grasso when she's offensively grappling. So I've got Grasso. I'm going to say round number 3 submission. And then finally, main event of the evening, we've got the Mexican Sean O'Malley, which I'm letting him slide. He's been banging Mexican chicks. He's got a Mexican baby. He's one of us. Fuck it. Versus Merab Dvalishvili, who, you know, he got hair plugs. That's a very Mexican thing to do. We'll let him slide. So we've got the 29-year-old, 5'11", 72-inch reach in Sean O'Malley. He's dead pick'em right now is what it's listing here on Tapology. Reality, money's been coming in on Sean because of the cut that Merab suffered, and he fucking announced it to the world. Minus 135 roughly for Sean O'Malley. And then for Merab, he is, I just went out of it, plus 115. So, you know, I don't blame anybody for taking Merab. I don't blame anybody for taking Sean. To me, I kind of like the props in this. I like the overs. I like the maybe Sean O'Malley in the first few rounds by knockout, or Sean O'Malley by knockout, Merab by decision. To me, it's a tale of two different fighters and two different fights here. Who's going to be the one that implements their game plan more effectively? And it's the distance where this fight is going to be held that is the ultimate deciding factor. Is Merab going to recklessly crash into Sean, who is a master at distance and feinting and movement? And it's hard to deny it, man. You see this guy fight, just in and out, in and out. He just very quick movement. Yeah, his takedown defense is still very questionable. We saw Peter Yan take him down, but then it improved against Aljamain Sterling. He was able to stuff. But Merab is a very different kind of cat when it comes to those takedowns. He will lift you. He'll just... God, it just is exhausting just thinking about how much cardio he has to do this. And that is going to be the deciding factor for Merab, is that if he can survive getting clipped by Sean, he's got a very good chance here to win the later rounds by just closing the distance on Sean and making the cage incredibly small for him. If Sean O'Malley is the one dictating that pace, threatening with knees, just trying to land these punches on Merab, whose chin is what I'm very much doubting here. What I know for a fact is that Sean will be landing some punches on Merab. Will those punches open up that cut? Maybe, maybe not. But Sean is a true one-hitter-quitter kind of fighter, that the speed that he throws his punches with, the precision, I think he's going to be able to hurt Merab Dvalishvili, who we've seen him get cracked with left hooks. We saw Marlon Moraes do it. Shit, we saw Henry Cejudo hurt him. Maybe not, oh my God, he's super hurt, but he still got rocked by Henry. If he allows Merab, if Merab allows Sean O'Malley to keep that distance and to keep him at bay, that's obviously what Sean wants. But what will Merab do? That's my biggest concern in this fight. Like, will Merab just rush in there? His striking's terrible. Like, he can strike, but it's more of like a sloppy volume where it's just meant to distract you while he shoots for your legs. But will Sean O'Malley hit him with a knee? You know what I mean? Like, he's very good at timing things. It's a very good fight. It's an incredible fight, especially if it ends up being a spectacular war where we get to see Sean O'Malley's grappling, who I do suspect his jiu-jitsu is going to be on par. He keeps talking too much shit on Twitter about like, oh, this is going to be easy money. You see him on the couch with his coach as he's on the phone, just like kind of kicking pads and stuff. And it's like he's taking it as a joke, which to me is like, this guy seems so confident that he's going to be able to finish Merab that he's just literally writing his obituary of how I'm going to fucking lose by not taking this seriously, that I think he is taking it very seriously. For Merab, I've not been impressed by him other than his just tenacity. He doesn't pose much of a threat with like power or with ground and pound. He's just truly a guy that's going to shoot a million times until you're exhausted, and he's going to hold you down, maybe throw some good punches, but I don't think he can finish Merab. I mean, Merab can't really finish Sean. Like, Sean would have to have negative grappling for him to get submitted by Merab. He's just not a finisher. So the way I'm probably going to play this, I might hedge it out. Like, I'm going to lean Sean O'Malley just because of that sharpshooter ability, that speed that he's going to have. And Merab's going to have to close that distance recklessly. And if that happens, that's a big mistake for him to do. So I'm curious to see what Merab's going to do. He's a huge reach disadvantage here. What is it? 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 inches. That doesn't even count the legs, which Sean's not really going to be throwing too many teeps, I don't think, because, yeah, Merab will catch him and he'll try to treetop him, but the head kicks will be there. The flying knees are going to be there for Sean. I'm not confident in this fight because of, again, will Sean kind of stumble his way to the cage and then trip, and then Merab takes him down? Because if Merab takes him down in the first round, that's going to begin the process of cooking Sean. But if Sean keeps that distance early and he lands some damage on Merab, I don't give a shit how good your cardio is. When you're getting busted up like that with a guy that can throw that many strikes, so this guy beat the shit out of that green-haired kid, Montalvo, whatever his name was. Forgot his name already. He's going to be back in the UFC, by the way. What was his name? Chris Montinho. He beat the shit out of Chris Montinho. But again, Chris did not really present a big threat on the ground for grappling and such. So I'm going to lean very ignorantly. I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley round number 1 knockout. I think he can do it, mostly because that's when Merab's like at his most vulnerable, where he can get knocked out, where he has to close that distance. When he's done it before recklessly, I think at that point he gets more comfortable, is more willing to take a shot, maybe more willing to eat that flying knee that's not going to land on him and then take him down. But early on, I think that's when Sean's going to be the most dangerous, the fastest, and I think he can catch Merab and knock him out in the first round. So I'm going to go with O'Malley, first round knockout. But again, it's a tough one, right? Like, I think the smart money would be on Merab because he's got that ability to push for 5 rounds and push hard for 5 rounds, where Sean, we saw Peter Yan take him down. He was able to get back up and make it a close fight, but that's Peter Yan. That's a much more well-rounded fighter. Here, he only really has to worry about the grappling of Dvalishvili. I don't think he's got much to worry about with the striking. But watch Merab knock him out. That'd be some crazy shit. So to me, I have to go with Sean O'Malley here to kind of end the night in a good note. But either way, man, like Merab, I've come to appreciate that kind of style, man. Like, he just completely like drains you and like saps it out of you, but he at least makes it more entertaining, which is funny because he kind of has a similar style to Belal Muhammad, but I hate Belal Muhammad's style, mostly because I don't know, I have no idea why, I just don't like it. But yeah, I'll go with Sean O'Malley first round knockout. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I will again be in Vegas for UFC Noche Riyadh season 306, O'Malley versus that fucking long name, Dvalishvili. I'm going to plan on probably get some signatures on some gloves, so I might actually raffle those bitches off. If I get them in the next video, I will let you know. But that has been Johnny TigerBomb MMA reporting on UFC 306. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you think in general about bets. Again, right now I haven't bet anything because I will wait until I am at Vegas to make some stupid shit. Yeah, see you next time.